You've heard the saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. But what if I told you that Vincent, Sonny Corleone's bastard child, spoke so loudly he didn't need a stick. His very presence became too big to ignore. By making bold moves, Vincent pushed his way into Michael's inner circle and placed himself atop the Corleone family. What most people mistake for recklessness and impulsiveness was actually something far more calculated. Vincent knew exactly what he was doing and exactly how much he could get away with. Vincent Corleone, whose legal name is Vincent Mancini, is the illegitimate son of Sonny Corleone and Lucy Mancini. Conceived at his Aunt Connie's wedding, Vincent has a history of showing up at parties without an invitation. The Godfather Part 3 begins with a large party, celebrating an honor that Michael receives from the Catholic Church. Vincent arrives at the party to find that he is not on the guest list. Rather than leaving or politely waiting until someone looks into it, Vincent causes a huge scene, grabbing everyone's attention until Dominic Abbandando steps in and assures the men working the door that Vincent belongs there. At the party, Vincent uses his charisma to charm his relatives. But his real purpose for being there is to confront Michael concerning an ongoing dispute with Joey Zasa. Vincent knows that Zasa is there for essentially the same reason, and Vincent has no intention of letting him get to Michael first. Vincent wears a red shirt and a leather jacket to the party. All the other men are wearing formal suits with white shirts and black ties. He jokes with his Aunt Connie that if he'd known he was going to be talking to Michael, he would have worn a better suit. This was only a joke. Vincent's whole purpose for being there is to talk to Michael, and Vincent's chosen attire is deliberate. He is there to stand out, and he is there to send a message. He wears the leather jacket precisely to send the message that he can get away with it. When Michael calls him into his office, he is introduced by his Aunt Connie. Relying on his mother's lifelong friendship with Connie and his own personal charm, Vincent has made Connie an important and visible ally. Michael will know that if he treats Vincent poorly, he will have an issue with Connie, the only remaining relative that he is close to. Sure enough, Vincent's formal attire is the first thing that Michael comments on. Vincent is unfazed by the reprimand. This is his meeting. He will control the frame. Vincent turns his attention to Joey Zasa and lectures him as if he were a schoolboy, and as if Michael's office was Vincent's own. Vincent unleashes his temper, reminding Michael of his relation to Sonny. Temper like his father, Michael says. On the surface, this is a rebuke. But what Vincent accomplishes in this moment is to make it so that Michael doesn't just know that he is Sonny's boy, but it makes Michael feel it as well. Michael may believe that Vincent is acting inappropriately and disrespectfully, but that is a small price to pay. In exchange, Vincent has attached Michael's love for his long-deceased brother to himself in a way that commits Michael's protection to him. This is why he can get away with making a scene. It is why he can get away with what happens soon after. Michael makes an attempt to calm tensions by explaining to Vincent that Zasa is the boss, and that Vincent chose to work for him, that he had to respect and obey the hierarchy. Vincent responds to Michael that Zasa has been denigrating Michael's name behind his back, and challenges Zasa to say it to his face. While this appears to be childish finger-pointing at its surface, it is perfectly calibrated to engage Michael's own insecurities. We have learned from the first two films that Michael is a man who views even the slightest challenge to his authority and power as an existential threat. Michael takes the bait and approaches Zasa. Menacingly, he tells Zasa, if there was some guy running around the city saying, "Fuck Michael Corleone," what do we do with a piece of shit like that? He's a fucking dog. He forces a diminished Zasa to concede that anyone who has done that, which he undoubtedly has, is a dog. Following this act of submission by Zasa, Michael declares that his interests do not conflict with Zasa's. This statement seems to support Zasa, but it's a double-edged sword. While it promises that Michael will not take action against him so long as he doesn't step out of line, it also promises retribution if he does. Michael motions Vincent and Zaza to come together to hug it out. Zaza whispers an insult into Vincent's ear. Vincent grabs Zaza and bites him, Mike Tyson style, right on the ear. Not merely drawing blood, but removing flesh. This is the height of Vincent's genius. He has an intuition that allows him to understand the dynamics in the room before anyone else. Most view this moment as Vincent being impulsive like his father, but it's not. Vincent wants to come to work for Michael and wants Michael to be wary of Zaza. Michael had made peace with Zaza and told Vincent to respect and obey Zaza. Biting Zaza's ear forces Michael to choose sides. He can either allow Zaza to maintain his honor by killing Vincent, or he can protect Vincent by inviting Vincent to work for him, leaving Zaza humiliated and driving a permanent wedge between the Corleones and Joey Zasa. The key to this move was that Vincent realized, perhaps even before Michael did, that Michael would protect him, regardless, out of his love for his brother and family. On the surface, Vincent seems to have acted impulsively and recklessly throughout the meeting, but every move he made was from an understanding of the dynamics at play and was calibrated perfectly to shift the outcome of the meeting. In the end, Vincent left the room having achieved all of his goals. His new status was confirmed later at the party. The Corleones are being positioned on the stairway for a family portrait. Vincent watches from a distance. Michael steps down and beckons Vincent forward to be included in the picture. Vincent doesn't just use bold action for planned events. He also defaults to it when dealing with an unexpected threat. The next time we see Vincent in the film is when Zaza has two assassins break into Vincent's apartment in the middle of the night to kill him. Vincent is in bed with a young blonde reporter who, for purposes of this video, let's call Bridget Fonda. They hear a noise. Vincent instantly knows that this is a threat. He doesn't run. He doesn't position himself and the girl in a defensible corner. No, he improvises the boldest plan imaginable. He tells Bridget it is nothing and sends her to get a glass of water. He knows that he is sending her directly into the threat. These assassins had envisioned sneaking in and killing Vincent while he slept. Now a half-naked woman has walked right into the middle of their plan. One assassin grabs her and covers her mouth. Now, let's be clear about this. Vincent is using Bridget as a decoy. He knows that he is sending her into harm's way. He knows that he is endangering her life to give himself a better chance at survival. He doesn't want her harmed, but he is ruthless. He has temporarily shifted the assassin's attention to Bridget. He doesn't use this as an opportunity to hide or escape. He defaults to boldness. While Bridget is held hostage by one assassin, the other proceeds to the bedroom. Vincent gets the drop on him, grabs his gun, and instead of simply killing him, he takes the assassin hostage himself and drags him to confront the other. What Vincent understands is that boldness seizes initiative and paralyzes opponents. By giving up Bridget to one assassin and taking the other hostage, Vincent has transported them both to a scenario that they have no idea how to deal with. While Vincent acts, these two assassins are still processing how they ended up in this predicament. Vincent sees that these two assassins aren't professionals. They are two-bit thugs. He escalates the psychological pressure on the thug holding Bridget by telling him to let her go, and then telling him that he's going to do something to convince him. He then nonchalantly executes the thug he is holding. The paralysis is complete. The remaining thug lets go of Bridget. Vincent asks him who sent them, and he blurts out that it was Joey Zasa. Vincent executes him on the spot. In The Godfather Part 3, Michael seeks to purchase a controlling share in the real estate conglomerate International Immobiliare. Don Altabello approaches Michael on behalf of the commission, asking that the bosses of the other families be included in the deal. These bosses want to share in the profits, and they want to use the company to launder their money. For Michael, this is impossible. His entire purpose of acquiring the conglomerate is to achieve his lifelong goal of legitimizing the family business. For Michael, International Immobiliare must be legitimate. Michael calls a commission meeting in Atlantic City. At this meeting, he hands out checks, $50 million, $100 million, to the heads of families as profits for investing. Michael hopes this money will placate the other bosses over their exclusion from the Immobiliare deal. Zasa is present, but he doesn't get a check. He was not one of the investors. He storms out of the room, with Don Altobello following close behind. Just then, the room starts shaking, and the windows, the furniture, and the Dons are suddenly ripped apart by machine gun fire. Luckily, Vincent leads Michael and Neri out of the room before they are hit themselves. The three make it back to Michael's New York City apartment, but later that night, the stress of it all causes Michael to have a diabetic seizure. He is rushed to the hospital. With Michael incapacitated, Vincent seizes the opportunity to hit Zasa, the same hit that Vincent has been lobbying Michael for all along, and that Michael has refused him. Instead of waiting for Michael to recover, he acts boldly. Zasa, who is partly modeled on real-life gangster John Gotti, sought the adoration of the public and was making a highly visible appearance at the San Gennaro Street Festival in Little Italy. He was surrounded by his men and a crowd that he believed loved him. He felt untouchable. One of Vincent's men creates a distraction, drawing the attention of Zasa and his men. Another one, dressed in a religious costume, kills Zasa's bodyguard with a shotgun blast. Zasa flees down the block and hopes to escape into a storefront, but the door is locked. Vincent, riding on horseback and dressed as a New York City cop, shoots Zasa several times in the back, killing him. The murder of Zasa is often likened to the murder of Don Fanucci by Vito Corleone many decades earlier. While there are similarities, what's more interesting is the differences. Vito acts clandestinely and alone. He surveils Fanucci's movements down the block during a similar street festival. When he sees Fanucci is heading home, he lays in wait in the shadows outside Fanucci's apartment door. When Fanucci appears, Vito strikes, shooting Fanucci in the chest and again in the face. There are no witnesses, and Vito is back at home with his family before anyone even notices that anything has happened. Vincent employs boldness, not stealth, in the killing of Zasa. Vincent and his men hide, but they hide in plain sight. They create chaos and use the chaos to outmaneuver Zasa. Vincent strikes so publicly and so boldly that everybody sees what happens, but there are no witnesses that can identify him. There is only the chaos and a police officer seen galloping away. The strangest part of The Godfather Part 3, and the one that generates the most questions and criticism, is the relationship between Vincent and Michael's daughter Mary. Dating his boss's daughter is a bold move, but the fact that they were cousins elevates bold to bizarre, and frankly, the believability of this relationship and the disapproval of the relationship by Mary's father, mother, and brother always seemed a bit understated to be believable, and in my opinion, is one of the key weaknesses in the film. That said, the boldness of dating the boss's daughter is worth mentioning in this discussion of strategy. When Vincent starts dating the boss's daughter, even if not done as part of some deliberate strategy, it still has a quality that would be absent if Vincent were dating a random woman. Dating the boss's daughter puts a piece on the chessboard, which may become useful or detrimental at some later point. Vincent is particularly adept at manipulating social situations, and Vincent is likely capable of using this relationship to his advantage in many ways that others couldn't. Late in The Godfather Part 3, Michael wishes to send Vincent to meet with Altobello in an intelligence gathering operation. Late in The Godfather Part 3, Michael wishes to send Vincent to meet with Don Altobello in an intelligence gathering operation. Vincent will tell Altobello that he is willing to betray Michael. The relationship with Mary, which Michael disapproves of, becomes a plausible basis for Altobello to believe Vincent's desire to betray Michael. In this endeavor, not only the relationship with Mary, but Vincent's history of bold moves is to Vincent's advantage. Vincent is seen as a wild card. That he would betray Michael is plausible because Vincent has a reputation for wild moves and is predictably unpredictable. While Altobello tests Vincent, he ultimately falls for the ruse and reveals to Vincent that Don Lucchese was behind the Atlantic City hit and is the one thwarting Michael's bid to control International Immobiliare. Contrast this with The Godfather Part 1, where Vito sends Luca Brasi to meet with Sollozzo and Tattaglia on a similar intelligence-gathering mission. Vito tells Luca to tell Sollozzo that he is unhappy with the Corleones and is interested in allying with him. Sollozzo and the Tattaglias don't fall for it for a second. Luca is known for his undying loyalty to Vito, and while Luca has a reputation for violence, he is not expected to strategically play one side off against the other. Sollozzo and Bruno Tattaglia take no chances and kill Luca immediately once he arrives for the meeting. There are several advantages to acting boldly. First, bold action draws attention. Frequently, Vincent's outrageous behavior had Michael shaking his head and muttering to himself that Vincent has much to learn. However, what Vincent understood was that negative attention can be just as valuable as positive attention, and sometimes negative attention is even better. Consider this. Joey Zasa paid an in-person visit to Michael Corleone to deal with the problem that was Vincent. If Vincent had played the good soldier, dutifully obeying Zasa, would Zasa have made a visit to Michael to tell him what a good job Vincent was doing? Of course not. If Vincent was keeping his head down and staying out of trouble and doing the right thing, would Michael have ever noticed and called him into his office to shower praise on him? Of course not. It was precisely because Vincent was attracting negative attention that made him a priority in Michael's busy schedule. Second, bold action seizes the initiative. In military terms, the person with the initiative is the person who dictates the terms of the battle. The assassin snuck in at night, so they would dictate the time and place of Vincent's killing. After detecting the threat, Vincent turned the tables on the assassin. First, he seized the initiative by sending Bridget to stumble into them. Now, the assassins are off script because it forces one assassin to have to deal with a woman separate and apart from Vincent. This allows Vincent to set up and ambush the other assassin. From this point on, Vincent acts boldly by moving aggressively against the assassins and forcing them to be reactive. In this way, Vincent was able to overcome them by being one step ahead of them. Third, bold action distracts and surprises. Because Vincent attacked Zasa openly and publicly, he caught Joey Zasa completely off guard. It was inconceivable to Zasa that Vincent or anyone else would be bold enough to attack him in broad daylight in public while he is with his bodyguards and surrounded by witnesses. But bold action is disorienting. Zaza's bodyguards were a step too slow. Zasa was caught in the open with no plan for escape. And the spectacle of the killings were so disorienting that nobody in the crowd would be able to make out Vincent, who was dressed as a police officer, as the murderer. Finally, acting boldly gives you the image of being a wild card. Once you have this image and reputation, your friends and enemies will believe you to be capable of anything. Murder and violence definitely, but also, as in the case of Don Altobello, as having the ability to scheme and betray and to form new alliances. In the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene writes that it is better to enter with boldness. Any mistake you commit through audacity is easily corrected with more audacity. Vincent was a faithful adherent of this philosophy, but Vincent never relied on boldness alone. He always stacked the odds in his favor first. Before meeting with Michael, he recruited Michael's sister Connie to be his biggest advocate. Before confronting the assassins, he sent Bridget to disrupt their plans. And he didn't just strike Joey Zasa in public. He planned that attack with intricate detail down to the costumes that he and his compatriots would be wearing. The one thing that Vincent knew better than anyone was that being bold is not the same as being reckless. It just appears that way. And that appearance gave him the advantage. Vincent Corleone is often dismissed as an inferior strategist when compared to Michael and Vito. I'm not saying he's better than Michael and Vito, but he's not as far behind as people think. And I'd argue he's the most strategically interesting character in the entire trilogy. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments.